Decoding Learning Differences with Cameron Lavelle, and this episode is the pace and pattern of learning. So we've talked about this before, and I want to go over it again in a little bit of a different way because I keep seeing it come up in different families and different things I'm hearing from people. So a lot of us have this expectation, and usually it's not a very conscious expectation. It's kind of just a subconscious thing. We expect that when we're working with our students, our children, that they're going to just keep making forward momentum, the forward growth, and they're going to remember the things that they've already learned and mastered. And yet we know for ourselves that if I'm trying to learn a language and I haven't practiced it in 30 years, I don't remember it anymore, right? Like, I don't know. We have to keep practicing in order to make that progress. So the reality is, in order for them to know it, they have to keep practicing it for them to keep knowing it. So they know it today, and we have to practice it tomorrow. We have to practice it again 3 months from now. We have to keep practicing. This is for all kids. This is true of all learners. Myself, you, all of our children, everyone. It is significantly more true for our students with learning disabilities. Their brains typically are wired in a way that requires a lot of extra practice. So in some situations, this looks like they learned the material in class with all of their peers, and then they went outside of class and practiced it an additional 20 times to get it solidified, to really build that connection and make it as automatic as their peers got just from the class instruction. Sometimes this means they're needing more extra practice at home. That might be tutoring, that might be you doing extra work with them. It might be stuff happening during summers as extra review. Now, if you're a family that's homeschooling, that might mean that you are giving the instruction, and then later that day, you're practicing it. And later that day, you're practicing again. And right before bed, you're practicing again. And then first thing the next morning, you're practicing it before you do the next lesson. But after the next lesson, you practice yesterday's stuff and the stuff from 3 months ago. And then that night, you're practicing the thing that you learned today as well as the stuff, right? Like you're constantly adding in this extra material. So, because the reality is that what we have to do about it, how we solve this problem, is strategic review. We have to be strategic in how we are reviewing material with our kids. This might be that your kid comes home from school with work and you're holding on to it, and then the next day you're asking them about it to review it. And then a month later, you're asking them about it to review it. Or a week later, and then a month later, and then 3 months later. So you keep pulling out these different things that you know they've mastered previously, but do they still have it? Now, sometimes in a lot of reading curricula, this works out. They automatically build in the words and stuff they've already learned. The phonics patterns they've already learned gets added in, and the material just gets harder, but they already know that, and they're practicing it in what they're doing. So sometimes there's not a whole lot of reverse practice necessary. Now with spelling, if you are just learning a new, let's say we're working on different vowel teams, and you're practicing a vowel team, and every week is a different vowel team that you're working on spelling, you aren't going to remember all those vowel teams unless you are strategically practicing. So it's 10 new words and 5 practice words from the last 5 weeks, or from a month ago, or this week, all of the words are practice words from all the material that we've done already. You know, like we need a lot of review built in. with math, kids working on one thing, addition, let's say, we've got to build in a lot of review. Now, a lot of curricula, they know this to be true, and it is built in. There's strategic reviews, there's spiral reviews that are happening. Those are designed for the average kid because the average kid needs this. The kids with learning disabilities might need a lot more of it, so you might have to be extra careful that they are doing it. And one of the tendencies is to actually take that review away from the kids, because when it's the gen ed setting, so in the general education setting, everyone gets this instruction. Today we're working on addition. The first 6 problems are review of previous lessons, previous concepts we were learning, and then it gets into the lessons. Well, you have such a hard time remembering that stuff, so you only have to do, you can skip the first 6 and you're going to do the rest of the homework, just practicing today's lesson. And in a lot of ways that seems kind to the child, right? And it's not that it's ever inappropriate or the wrong choice, but we want to make sure that we're also adding in a lot of extra review. So maybe that means not taking away those. Maybe it means doing those with a teacher so that they have help working through it and remembering it and refreshing it. Maybe it's that's the priority at home, and at school we're going to do this, or vice versa. Like, we can think about how it looks and what the expectation is, but we have to make sure that we are always providing review to all children, especially and more significantly the children with learning disabilities. If you're a homeschooling parent, you're working on, 2nd grade math, make sure you're pulling in 1st grade math. You're working on level 3 of your reading curriculum, make sure you're pulling in stuff from level 2 and level 1 strategically. Sometimes it can be random when you're like, I don't see anything they really need, so you're just pulling stuff and having a quick review. And this shouldn't take long, because it should happen so frequently that the child hasn't forgotten the material yet. And if they do forget it, hopefully it is a quick review. Sometimes it is, and sometimes they look at it like they've never seen it before in their lives. So both happen. Be prepared for both. Okay, if you want some more intensive support in working through all of this, figuring out what's exactly the right methodology for my family, that is one of the things I offer, is really what can progress and review look like for your family? How can I structure my lessons? How can I work, what's our best route, whatever, as well as looking at IEPs and making sure and giving support along those lines. If you want any kind of support or you're not sure if it's what I offer, hit me up, email me, Kimberlyn@decodinglearningdifferences.com. I also love stories. I love hearing all of it. Again, Kimberlyn@decodinglearningdifferences.com. And I'm not sure that there will be any more episodes before January, so I'll probably see you in January.